The chapter begins with a battle between human and monsters. The characters retreat because they are too weak in the face of danger in the form of skeletal monsters. Siamuniap comes forward, finally saying to write him down in a book is a great man. After that, the story of the world order begins. Humanity is not the only one who created a civilization on Earth. Those who live underground created their own civilization, which was many times different from those that existed above. Humanity was on the verge of complete extinction as their weapons could not cope with the mystical power possessed by their neighbors having launched a counterattack. People were obviously losing. However, the situation began to change in the direction of humanity. The mystical power of the underworld began to awaken superpowers and people, and finally, humanity was able to give a worthy rebuff they captured on of the lower civilization after another, until in the spring of 2005, the 7 strongest superhumans gathered together, finding themselves in front of the gates of the last dungeon. The last dungeon formed the basis of underground monsters. By entering there, they ended a long war for the achievement. During the battle, those 7 people began to be called attention. 7 heroes who saved humanity. They have received many awards, but of all the 7, only SEO Moonap, who was the leader and the only one who did not survive, did not return. He became a legend and his compatriots became the stars of the earth. 17 years pass. There is a representative game, the essence of which consists in virtual sword fights using the abilities of superhumans between South Korea and France and the Seoul Arena. France is conducting an attack and Korea's cannot respond properly. Nathan Vernon kills opponents by committing 6 murders alone. He is admired. He is among the top 3 superhumans of the battlefield era. The Korean national team has no chance to win back. There was only one player left, the girl Hai Yang, who went one-on-one with Nathan. She is the daughter of one of the 7 heroes, but even she has no chance of defeating the Frenchman since her team is too weak. The South Korean national team is defeated. The match ends with a score of 2-0 in favor of France. South Korea was unable to adapt to the realities of a new world in which there were no monsters and an underground civilization. Having raised 2 of the 7 heroes, she loses in this sport. The audience is completely dissatisfied with the national team shouting and demanding to replace the players. The coach complains this is the 3rd defeat since he led the team. Koreans used to be the personification of will and strength, but now their skills are at the very bottom. Jiho, the coach of the team, a former hero, wants to ready to abandon the team. He gets a call from the president of the association who reported shocking news. A man in retire, and at the moment when he is armor falls on Gwangwoman Square, where a monument to 3 great people is erected. Admiral Lee Sun-sin, King Sejong, and Hiroshio Munyep, and he will be recognized as the deceased hero, the leader of the other 6. So Moon Ap, CEO Moon Ap's last memory is of how he fought alone against the monsters of the last dungeon. He dreams about it until the main character wakes up in a hospital in modern Korea. From a conversation with a nurse, he learns that the year is 2022 on Earth, and everyone thought he was dead. Panicking that he has been gone for so many years, SEO Munap asks what has become of his possessions. The nurse informs that as Moon at bequeath, all his money has been given to charitable foundation. A museum has been made of his house and car, was sold at auction, which makes the hero a real homeless man at this time. Reporters attack the hospital where Ko Moonap is staying, and he is angry because of this. After asking the nurse for a mirror, Seal Moonap realizes that for 17 years, he has not aged, looking the same as in 2005. It turns out what kind of ability Ko Moonap has: the eyes of analysis see the current abilities of the target, as well as its future potential. Thanks to them, Seal Moonap very quickly became the strongest Superman in the world, and because of them he was able to lead 7 heroes. Before becoming a leader, he took Baek Jae as his disciple as he saw his talents. Although at first, he considered him an ordinary loser, the current indicators of Sol Manapo remain the same as in 30 years. However, something has changed. The strength has increased by 110 of 100. And a new superpower, Immortal, has appeared, which presumably Dungeon Beck Zhao appears in the war. There is a meeting of old friends. Beck appeared due to the battle in the last. Joho is crying with joy later on the roof in the evening. The coach of the national team says that they wrote a book about Su Moon App as he wanted. They shot 2 films that took first place at the box office. Since Su Moon App is homeless and penniless, Beek Jiho offers him to live in his house. Seamunap learns about the battlefield game in which the dungeons where they once fought with an underground civilization are materialized. The former leader is sure that Korea undoubtedly should be in the first place in this sport. But the reality is that this country is actually dragging at the very bottom, which is extremely surprising to see a Moon App. While CEO Moon App and Beek Jiho are driving in the car, the latter tells him why Koreans can't take the National Battlefield Cup. The reason why South Korea turned out to be the weakest is that after the end of the war, government officials began to fear that superhumans would stick a knife in their back. Having created Battlefield, they tried to put the warriors under state control, and because of this, most of the strongest superhumans emigrated to other countries, becoming their players or coaches. SEO Moon App is extremely unhappy. He was not very enthusiastic about politicians. Before his return, Leek Jiho offers Tom to become a coach of the national team in order to raise the level of South Korea, but Ko Moon App refuses not anymore. He also does not want to expose himself as a buffoon who allegedly saves. Wanting to live the life of a Superman. South Korea on Battlefield, he believes that everything not so bad. Noticing a hot young girl on the advertising stand who turns out to be Beek Jiho's daughter. CEO Moon App remembered her as a 6-year-old girl, and now she is 23. At Beek Jiho's house, they are met by his wife, Han Soon Hee. The main character finds himself in even greater confusion seeing how those he knew at a younger age have matured. He does not know what to do, therefore CEO Moon App indulges in simple human joys. He lies on the couch and watches dramas that have been released for all 17 years, wanting to live for himself. Beck Joho points out that journalists are on duty under the windows of his house, who have set a condition that they will not leave here until they see the revived hero. Ko Moon App compromises and agrees to a press conference. Everyone knows Ko Moon App is an intemperate person who destroyed everything in moments of anger. For 17 years, he has not changed. He openly says that he does not need the attention of journalists, and as soon as today's conference ends, he does not want to see them in his field of vision anymore. He is asked fairly standard questions, what he remembers, how he returned from the last dungeon. The first, so Moon App responds by saying that for him everything ended with a fight in the last dungeon, and as for the second, the main character himself has no idea. Then one impartial journalist still asks about Battlefield, whether he is going to take any part in the games. SEO Moon App gives the same answer that Beek Joho gave, saying that he will not take part in this. Another reporter decides to fan the fire by reporting that an athlete from America, Gerald Walker, calls 7 heroes real weaklings, but Ko Moon at mocks Gerald in response. He did not get into the top 3 best Battlefield players, the list of which consists of Nathan, Bernard Irishman, Roy Mayer, and German Daniel Mansk. Ko Moon Up challenges Gerald, but not in the arena, but in real life, telling him to find him and fight, and giving him the middle finger at the last to show him all the disrespect he has. Moving to America, we learn that Gerald Walker asks Zachary Wood from the American Battlefield Agency to buy him a ticket to Korea. Beck Joho is in complete shock at home on a match with the USA is scheduled in 2 weeks. SEO Moon App asks him to be quiet, not impressed by his screams. Since the main character is not part of Battlefield, Gerald Walker wants to vent his anger at the Korean team, but Seal Moon App no longer remembers the man he promised to bury in the backyard. In the evening, Hai Young returns home earlier than expected, who came to see her revived uncle and, of course, her parents. She throws herself with joyful cries at SEO Munyap, who painfully whines that Ha Young is already big and risks strangling him. Hao Young only laughs in response, saying that she could not forget her uncle who brought her chocolate or cookies. As a child she asks him if it's true that his uncle won't take part in battlefield, and Ko-moon-up grumbles that Ha-young was persuaded to start this conversation by her father. The girl persuades him to become a participant, and when her beloved uncle refuses she sighs because before So-moon Ap always supported her, but Seo-moon Ep doesn't give up after all. As a child Haya needed was sweets, and now she's asking him for a more weighty thing. Ha-young retreats as asking for something else persuades her uncle to go with her to check her avatar. The only thing that stops Ko-moon-ap is a drama on TV, but the puppy eyes of the girl persuade him. They come to the Korean Combat Association where Ha-young, having already changed into a uniform, connects to his avatar through a virtual reality helmet. The girl asks to create monsters to warm up. CEO Moon App admits that all the graphics convey reality in a very realistic way. Hyung fights the wolf, showing what she is capable of. When the fight ends, she asks the main character how well she did. Ko-moon App is not impressed. He says that for a 6-year-old child, the girl did well. Ha-young is offended, and in this case asks uncle to try for himself. Hearing a lot about his strength from his father, she plays on his pity. The girl was too young to appreciate the strength of Ko-moon App, and when she grew up, he had already died. CEO Moon App, gritting his teeth, agrees. They bring him weapons that he has not used before, and therefore is dissatisfied with the fact that there is nothing with which he could work. He throws away the shield he has brought, and leaves only a spear in his hand. He is very annoyed that he has to participate in virtual games having connected to his avatar. He says that he is doing this only to check what it is. Opening his eyes, SEO Moonap finds himself in a virtual space which is a copy of the real test zone since there are no errors between synchronization. With Moon App and Avatar, the main character asks to send someone to him in front of So Moon App. A celebrant appears. In the air, a flying something with one eye, similar to an octopus, pink in color. When a man sees him, he throws away the spear realizing that he will not need it. With a lightning fast movement he kills Saliburn and throws Ha-young into shock. She is shocked by how her uncle was able to kill the monster with a simple snap of his fingers. SEO Moonap demands to give him a stronger mob to check something, and suddenly a voice in English says that of course a simple Saliburn will not be a strong rival for SEO Moonap. The controller conducting the tests is in a panic. Someone is trying to connect to the game using an external module. Gerald Walker appears in front of Ko-moon-ap. The American recalls the challenge that was thrown to him, and here he is shouting that theraputation of the 7 heroes is complete nothing. He also notes that Ko-moon-ap seemed to be afraid of his appearance. Gerald attacks, but when the dust settles, he sees that Zeo Moon-yep is no longer in front of him. He is overcome with fear when the voice of the main character is heard behind him with the question about how someone like him could be scared. While the battle is going on between Ko-moon-ap and Gerald, in which the former is very enthusiastic, the president of the association, Park Jin-ti Jaha, and manager, Emma Rose, appear in the building of the Korean Combat Association. The request to arrange a battle between an American player and a Korean hero belonged to the representatives of the United States. Park Jin-ti agreed for the reason that perhaps this battle will be able to instill in Seo Moon-yep an interest in battlefield. The battle between Ko-moon-ap and Gerald continues. The American turns out to be better than the main character expected, and after checking his data, he is convinced that Walker is not just an idiot, but a strong idiot who can be responsible for his words. SEO Moon-ap admits that if he had met Gerald at the age of 17, he might have taken him to the last dungeon. Ko-moon-ap decides to test his new superpower on this guy since it didn't work out on Salibur, rushing right under Walker's weapon. Before he dies, he promises to show his opponent something interesting. Both Ha-young and the others understand that Ko-moon-ap deliberately put himself under attack, as if wanting to die, and then out of the smoke appears Ko-moon-ap, who had to disconnect from his avatar at the moment of death. The new superpower gives him immunity to death from physical impact. This was the test that Ko-moon-ap wanted to do when he agreed to this game. The new power not only allowed the hero to be reborn, but also healed his wound. Superhuman app reports the results of his observations to the controller, who followed the course of the battle. The hero asked him to seal this ability so that the fight does not become a fraud on his part. After the force is locked up, Gerald says that Superhuman app is really arrogant, but he is interested in his skills. Superhuman app turns out to be not what everyone imagines him to be. The main character teases his opponent, reminding him that he is not in the top 3. Gerald, as expected, is angry that he has been stepped on a sore spot. They attack each other with lightning speed. It's hard to keep track of how opponents strike. At one point, Superhuman Eppa finds himself behind the American's back mockingly, asking to look at him. Gerald dodges his attack by jumping back and Superhuman up, huge shield in his hands. And yet can't help but notice that he was able to deflect the blow even with the heavy fight comes to an end. Superhuman app throws a spear at the opponent, specifically aiming in the direction that Gerald could block with the shield. The spear changed its trajectory at the last moment, showing how monstrously Superhuman app controls the whole situation. Superhuman app announces his victory even though his opponent is still alive. The main character gives the American advice that it is better to replace the shield with the smaller one since he will never win. With such a shield and using it, Gerald only reduces his horizons. Gerald is discouraged by the help. He understands that he will really become stronger, but Superhuman app besieges him, reminding him that Walker will not become his equal. Thanks for watching.